Welcome back. You're here because you want the real story, the important stuff, without wading through pages and pages of reports.
Exactly. We know your time is valuable.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into the global pain management therapeutics market. We're looking specifically at 2025 and where things might be heading.
That's right. We've been digging into a report from Cognitive Market Research. It's their Global Pain Management Therapeutics Market Report 2025.
And our mission, as always, is to pull out the key insights, the future trends, basically give you a clear, concise picture of what's happening.
Think of it as the highlights reel, the stuff you really need to know.
And honestly, right off the bat, there's a number that jumped out. The global market size projected at USD 79.24 billion for 2025.
Yeah, it's a huge figure. 79.24 billion really sets the scale, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And that's just the starting point for our time frame.
Precisely. And what's maybe even more striking is the growth predicted. The forecast sees it climbing to USD 113.55 billion by 2033.
Wow. Okay. So a pretty hefty increase. What's the rate of that growth?
They're projecting a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 4.6% between 2025 and 2033.
4.6% per year on average.
Yep. And the report suggests this is mainly down to, well, two big things.
Which are?
One, just rising demand for healthcare generally across the globe. And two, ongoing advancements in technology and treatments for pain.
Makes sense. More need, better tools. So let's break this down geographically. Where's the main action happening right now?
Right now, North America is the leader, holds the biggest piece of the pie, over 40% of the global revenue.
Over 40%. That's substantial.
It is. In 2025, that translates to about USD 29.32 billion.
Okay, and why North America? What gives it that leading edge?
Well, the report points to a few factors. Things like adopting new tech and treatments relatively early,
Good.
significant spending on R&D, research and development, and just having a pretty well-established healthcare infrastructure.
Got it. And within North America, any standouts?
The U.S. is definitely the largest player there, projected at USD 23.13 billion in 2025, growing at about 2.9% CAGR. Then you have Canada, looking at USD 3.52 billion, but growing a bit faster, 3.9% CGR.
Interesting.
And Mexico, projected around USD 2.67 billion with a 3.6% growth rate.
So North America's the current leader.
Yeah.
What about Europe? They usually have strong healthcare sectors. How do they stack up?
They're definitely the second biggest market. Europe holds over 30% of the global revenue.
Okay, so still very significant.
Absolutely. The market size there for 2025 is estimated at USD 22.98 billion.
And the growth?
Expected CAGR is around 3.7% through to 2033. Slightly slower than the global average, but still solid growth.
What characterizes the European market according to the report? Anything unique?
Yeah, the report mentions the influence of strong regulatory frameworks, good healthcare infrastructure, as you said, and also an increasing focus on finding alternatives to opioids, non-opioid pain management.
Ah, that's a key point, the non-opioid focus. Which European countries are the major players here?
It's quite spread out. Germany's big, projected at USD 4.55 billion with 3.9% growth. The UK is also significant, USD 3.86 billion, and actually growing faster at 4.5%.
Right.
Then you've got France, about USD 2.11 billion, CGR of 2.9%. Italy, Russia, Spain, they all have sizable markets.
And some smaller but still developed markets, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, they all contribute. Sweden's around 0.71 billion, Denmark 0.48 billion, Switzerland 0.34, Luxembourg 0.28, each with CAGRs between, say, 3 and 4%.
So a really diverse picture across Europe.
Definitely. And there's a rest of Europe category, too, about USD 3.22 billion, growing a bit slower at 2.4%.
Okay, let's pivot. Asia Pacific. We often hear about explosive growth there. Does that hold true for pain management?
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on. APAC holds about 23% of the global revenue right now.
There's around.
USD 19.02 billion projected for 2025. But here's the kicker. The growth rate. The CAGR is projected at 7.3% from 2025 to 2033.
7.3%. Wow. That's significantly higher than North America or Europe.
By far the fastest growing region, according to this report.
What's driving that kind of acceleration?
Several things. Rising incomes, meaning more people can afford healthcare.
Okay.
Big improvements and expansion in healthcare facilities across many countries. And increasing urbanization. More people in cities needing access to care.
Makes sense. Which countries are leading this charge in APAC?
China's a huge factor, obviously. Market size projected at nearly 8 billion, USD 7.99 billion, growing at 6.8%.
Mm-hmm.
But look at India, projected market is smaller, USD 1.90 billion, but the CAGR is pegged at a massive 9.2%.
9.2. Incredible.
Yeah. Japan and South Korea are also major markets, USD 2.62 billion and USD 2.28 billion respectively, with growth around 6%.
Right.
Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, Southeast Asia as a bloc, they're all showing strong growth too, typically in the 6 to 8% CAGR range.
So if you're looking for future growth, APAC seems to be the key region to watch.
It definitely seems that way based on these projections.
What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, how do they fit in?
They have smaller shares currently, but still showing growth potential. South America is just over 5% share.
Okay.
That's about USD 3.01 billion in 2025, with a projected CGR of 5.3%. So growing faster than North America or Europe, too.
And the drivers there?
Similar themes, more investment in healthcare, rising awareness about treatment options. Brazil is the largest market there, followed by Argentina.
Got it. And the Middle East?
Middle East holds around 2% of the global share, market size projected at USD 3.17 billion in 2025.
And growing reasonably fast.
Yeah, a CGR of 5.9%. Again, driven by government spending on healthcare, building up infrastructure. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key markets there.
Okay. And finally, Africa.
Africa has the smallest current share, around 1%. That's about USD 1.74 billion for 2025.
But still growing.
Yes, a KGR projected at 4.9%. So, potential is there as economies develop and healthcare access improves. South Africa is the largest market currently.
Okay, that gives us a really good global map. Let's dig into the treatments themselves. What types of therapies are dominant? The report breaks this down, right?
It does. Looking at the therapeutics outlook, opioids are actually still projected to hold the largest market share.
Really? Even with all the concerns and the push for alternatives?
Yeah, it's maybe a bit surprising, but the report attributes this to their effectiveness, especially for acute and severe pain, quick relief.
So despite the downsides, their immediate efficacy keeps them dominant for now.
Seems to be the case. But, and this is important, the report also identifies antidepressants as the fastest growing segment.
Antidepressants for pain. Explain that a bit more.
Well, they're proving really effective for certain types of chronic pain, especially neuropathic pain, that's nerve pain, and conditions like fibromyalgia. Plus, chronic pain often comes with depression, so these drugs can sometimes tackle both issues. They work on brain chemistry involved in mood and pain signals.
That makes a lot of sense, the dual action.
Yeah.
What other drug categories are significant?
There's a whole range. Anticonvulsants, often used for nerve pain too. Anesthetics. NSAIDs, that's your everyday anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen.
Right.
Specific drugs for migraines, anti-migraine agents. And then a category of other non-narcotic analgesics, other painkillers.
Okay. Now, what about the reasons people need these treatments? The specific conditions, the indications.
Right, the indication outlook. The largest share here goes to chronic back pain.
Not surprising, sadly. It's so common.
Exactly. Its prevalence and the impact it has on daily life just create huge demand for treatments.
What else is big?
Migraine is another major one, and it's expanding rapidly.
Why the rapid expansion there?
Increased awareness, people getting diagnosed more often, and importantly, more innovative and targeted treatments becoming available specifically for migraine.
Better diagnosis, better drugs.
No.
Got it. Any other key indications?
Yes, several others are significant. Neuropathic pain, fibromyalgia, as we mentioned. Arthritic pain is a big one.
Like osteoarthritis.
Exactly, and rheumatoid arthritis, too. Also, pain after surgery, post-operative pain. And cancer pain is another critical area, plus a general others category.
Okay, so we know the what and the why. What about the how? How are these drugs typically administered?
Looking at the route of administration, oral methods, so pills, capsules, hold the largest market share.
Just because it's easy and familiar.
Pretty much. It's generally cost-effective, convenient for patients, easy to manage for both short-term and long-term pain.
Makes sense. But is it the fastest growing?
No, the report points to the parenteral route as the fastest growing sector.
Parenteral.
Yeah.
Meaning injections, infusions.
Exactly. Directly into the bloodstream or tissues. The big advantage is increased bioavailability. More of the drug gets where it needs to go faster.
So quicker onset of relief.
Precisely.
Huh.
Which is crucial in acute care, hospital settings, or for patients who maybe can't take oral meds.
So oral is dominant, but parenteral is growing fastest for those immediate needs. How do these products reach patients? Distribution channels.
The main channel is still retail pharmacies. They have the largest share simply because they're everywhere and accessible.
Brick and mortar.
Right. But online pharmacies are definitely a growing and significant channel now.
Convenience factor again?
Convenience, potentially different pricing, easier access for some people. It mirrors trends we see everywhere else, really.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about the market dynamics. What's pushing this market forward and what's potentially holding it back? What are the drivers?
We've touched on some already. The big ones are the growing number of people with chronic pain conditions.
Right.
The aging global population, older people tend to experience more pain, and rising disposable incomes, particularly in developing regions, coupled with expanding healthcare infrastructure. More people can access and afford treatment.
Those seem like powerful forces pushing growth. What about restraints? What are the headwinds?
The main ones mentioned are strict regulations around drug approval and sales.
Understandable, given the substances involved.
Absolutely. And related to that, ongoing safety concerns, particularly around opioids, but also potentially with other treatments. These factors can slow things down or limit options.
Regulation and safety, key counterbalances. Any major trends shaping the future direction?
Yeah, two stand out in the report. First, a move towards more minimally invasive techniques for pain management.
Like injections or smaller procedures instead of major surgery.
Exactly. Less recovery time, often fewer risks. Second, just a huge and growing investment in R&D.
Research and development, looking for that next breakthrough.
Always. Trying to find newer, better, and crucially safer ways to manage pain.
Both sound like positive trends for patients. Finally, let's talk competition. It's a massive market. Who are the key players? What's the landscape like?
It's described as highly competitive, as you'd expect. You've got the big pharmaceutical giants, of course, but also medical device companies involved in things like spinal cord stimulators or infusion pumps, and smaller, specialized biotech firms focused on innovation.
And what are their main strategies?
A lot of focus on R&D, as we said, strategic partnerships, alliances between companies, and mergers and acquisitions, M&A activity, to buy innovation or market share.
And are they leaning into that non-opioid trend?
Definitely. There's a clear emphasis on developing non-opioid treatments and those minimally invasive options, largely driven by those safety and regulatory pressures we talked about.
The report mentioned some specific company moves recently.
It did, yeah. Just as examples, it noted Teva Pharmaceutical had positive phase 3 trial results back in January 2025 for AJOVY, their migraine prevention drug.
Okay.
Johnson & Johnson acquired a company called Intracellular Therapies in February 2024, boosting their neuroscience portfolio.
Right.
And there was a collaboration announced between Launch Therapeutics and Teva in late 2024 for developing a specific product. Just snapshots of ongoing activity.
Shows it's a very active space. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. If we boil down this whole deep dive, what are the absolute key takeaways?
All right, let's summarize. 1, this is a large and significantly growing global market.
$79 billion in 2025, heading towards $113 billion.
Right. 2, growth isn't uniform. Asia-Pacific is really the hotspot for future expansion, growing fastest.
Okay.
3, within treatments, opioids still dominate the current market share, but antidepressants are the fastest growing category, and there's a big push for non-opioid solutions generally.
Important, Chef.
4, chronic back pain and migraine are huge drivers of need. 5, oral meds are most common, but parenteral injection infusion is growing fastest.
Got it.
And underlying it all, you have aging populations, rising chronic pain rates, and constant tech advancements driving the whole thing forward.
That's a great summary. So thinking about all that investment, all that growth, here's something for you listening to maybe chew on. How might personalized medicine treatments tailored really specifically to your individual biology, your specific pain type, maybe even your genetics, how might that change the game even further in the coming years? Could it go beyond the trends we've seen in this report?
That's a fascinating question. The potential for truly individualized pain relief.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely something to think about for the future.